you guys, whoever out there is listening, like, you have to drop those rocks. You got to make smaller rocks out of those big rocks because it's too heavy to carry around. It'll cripple you.
Hello, and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter. Today, we discuss courage and challenge. God only knows when the devil comes for you. What are you afraid of? I guess Ryan Reichert, a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel, CEO of Our Protector Development, and author. Hi, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jocelyn. How you doing?
What's the one thing you see people doing that makes your Lieutenant Colonel stand up and shout?
Yeah, I think back, to my military career over 20 years. I think the one that really bothers me the most these days is when people litter. That's the one where I just go nuts. You pull up to a parking lot and you see someone's door open and all of a sudden a bag of something goes shooting out the bottom of the door. And for me, then it's like, I go, obviously I'll go pick it up. And if, you can't catch them, to just ask them, why would you do such a thing? But yeah, it's all about, trying to keep this beautiful planet clean and, just being kind, respectful souls. That to me, that's a tough one these days when I see people just making a mess of the world.
To me, the more people in the neighborhood, the worse it gets sometimes. I can't stand the litter myself. I cannot stand it. When I was coming up a long time ago, we didn't have, probably had some litter. Some litter. Excuse me, some litter, but not as bad to me as it is now. From where I'm at, I just can't stand that. I wonder if they do that at home. What do you think?
Well, I think the dynamic that I've learned in all the other countries that I've, was deployed in or training in, a lot of the time it's an education standpoint. They just truly don't understand the dynamics of, civilization that creates a lot of trash, especially nowadays because we consume so much. I think it's just that dynamic of understanding like the follow through and discipline to like clean up what you call home or whatever that looks like. And I think a lot of people, it's a discipline thing at the end of the day. And so, just like, if you got a car, keeping your car clean, you got a house or an apartment or a mobile home, like keeping that clean and the yard clean. And it's hard. I get it. Like we all can go through a slump. I've had my moments of depression and so forth where you don't want to do anything. But I think the bigger thing is just start by doing something, just pick up one piece of trash to do your part. If you see it on your way in, like I live across the street from a grocery store. So, I kind of go every other day, to get groceries. I don't just load up on Saturday or Sunday for the week. And, so I always pick up one or two pieces of trash on my way over there. And, if I missed one on the way there, I'd catch it on the way back. And I think that for all of us is kind of just, policing up the world. If you see something out of place, take care of it.
Well, thank you for doing that. Okay. What made you decide to have a career in the Army?
Yeah, I think back, we had a family friend that went to the United States Military Academy, also known as West Point. And I thought, that'd be really cool if, I could get in. And I'd injured my leg when I was in high school. And unfortunately, I couldn't get past the medical side of it to get into West Point. But actually, while I was at the University of North Dakota and money started to dry up, I looked into a scholarship there, and things had changed from my previous application into the military academy. And so in 1999, I think is when I joined the Army. And it was really funny. I always like to tell a story. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad was in the Army. And so when I told my grandmother that I was joining the Army, she's like, "Why would you do that? They have such ugly uniforms." And so I think it was with dad being in the army that, and we had, one of his cousins was also in the army. But yeah, both my grandfathers were in the Navy. I had an uncle in the Navy. And, when I think back, great uncle that was in World War II and Korea. So yeah, definitely have some family that served. And so, for me, I think it was probably twofold. Like one, I wanted my father or whomever to be proud of me. And also, at the time, like, we when times get tough, we do different things. So maybe it was like, hey, for me to get my college, paid for and so on and so forth, I needed to sacrifice, and serve basically to allow that to complete itself. And it was great. I mean, when I look back and reflect today, a lot of hard times, but I think for everyone, life is hard, and we choose our hard. I chose to volunteer and do it. It's one of those that and enjoyed it.
When you joined, I know you saw a lot of young people joining also. Did they think, oh, this is going to be fun? I'm away from home. Man, I got it made in the shade. What were they thinking when they
Yeah,
so young?
it's always interesting. One of the company commands that I had it's called One Station Unit Training, and it's like the brand new privates that enlist and then go through their one station unit training into the infantry. Yeah, when they would get there, you'd have the ones that were ready to go. They were in sports in high school, they were in shape. They kind of knew what they had signed up for. And then you had the others that, like a fish out of water, like what happened? My recruiter lied to me, said I was going to do this, and this isn't that. And, I think that's a dynamic for everyone out there. You have those that, take accountability for their responsibility that they chose. They raised their right hand and volunteered. And then you have those who play the victim, unfortunately, and they, sign up for something, which is great. I greatly appreciate, all those who volunteer to serve. But, when it seems like it's not what we thought it was going to be, it's harder. I think that, and, entrepreneurship, of all the different things that I've done in my career of adulthood or life, running your own business or multiple businesses is for me personally the scariest thing I've ever done. And a lot of people might say, "Wow, you did this, you did that." You have to have a ton of faith, to know that every single day when you wake up, is the revenue still coming in? You got expenses going out, and that to me today is something that I think of the dynamic. And so, um, you can work for somebody else, I guess, and, get paid every Friday or whatever that looks like. And so when I think back to, in the military, for me, after a while, it just became comfortable is really what it really did become comfortable. I knew every month I'd get paid. Every 2 years, I'd move somewhere new. Every year you'd have a different, position, title. Every 3 to 5 years, you would, make rank as you moved up, and get promoted. So I think it just became a lifestyle that I was comfortable with, and it was good.
I met a lot of people who were veterans, and they said, I do not want to travel because I did a lot of that when I was in the military. Do you feel the same?
No, absolutely not. I love traveling. It's one of those for me that yeah, I don't know if I was ever meant to like stay in one place. I mean, growing up, I stayed in the same house pretty much my whole, after I was born, same place. And, then going to college and moving, into a dormitory or an
Uh-huh.
apartment, over those 5 years that I was in college. And then after that, my first year in the army, go to a lot of different schools and so forth. So that, stayed in an apartment or barracks, but, moved all over across different training, camps and stuff like that. And then, yeah, each station, I got to my first duty station was Hawaii, which was amazing.
Ooh.
But, everyone's like, oh, I bet you that was nice. And I was like, oh, a little thing called 9/11 happened. So I was in Afghanistan shortly after. I think we got to train up about 6 months or so together, which was great. And then we went to Afghanistan. But yeah, it's when you really reflect on it, I'd love to travel today. Like, I know right now that I probably am not traveling till the middle of January with work and stuff like that. So staying here in Minnesota, and um, I'm like excited, for that trip. Looking forward to that. I could certainly go for another trip, but now between now and then, I know there isn't any. That doesn't mean that one won't pop up. But yeah, I love to travel. So it's I don't know. Everybody has their differences when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's just the ones I met said that. It's forget it. But okay, moving on. What was the moment you realized your fight with alcohol was a crisis?
Yeah, it when I reflect today, I see multiple moments across the board. Unfortunately, I started drinking when I was only 12 years old, and it's sad because I teach sixth grade last year, seventh grade this year, boys at church, and to think that I can't see any of these little guys drinking, and to think I started then, and I think it was the dynamics of I used it to cope with whatever pain I was suffering from, be it physical or mental. So when I retired in 2022 from the Army, I didn't have to get up at, X in the morning to work out. I didn't have to be in front of a formation of 30 to 500 soldiers. It's one of those where, I could isolate, at home with my family. They'd all go to bed or, go to their rooms, and I'd sit in the basement, watch football or movies and cracking beers or whatever I was drinking. And I think it's just one of those where, I was trying to escape the reality I created in my mind. And, I was running from just a lot of pain and a lot of fear that I had, whatever it looked like. And I was making mountains out of molehills. And unfortunately, the way I coped was with prescription drugs and alcohol, and just, destroyed a lot of things. Destroyed a 25-year marriage. It took quite a while for my children to come back into my life. And today when I reflect upon it, it's all about keeping your side of the street clean. You can't control anybody else in your life, or whatever's going on with your relationships that you do have. And I had lost my purpose. I teach a course called "The War of Purpose Built to Break," and it helps men and women with just your mindset and so forth, and your purpose at the end of the day. And do you truly have a purpose that you're willing to fight for? And today, for me, it's like, yeah, my children, knowing that choices I made, to lose it all, making those mistakes. Now I know there's ways that we can work through them for all of us. And if you do make some mistakes and lose in life, you can certainly rebuild and win again, kind of thing. Just because you lose one or two, I'm a big Rocky fan, kind of thing. And you got to think back, like, he didn't win them all, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But, how do you see Rocky? Do you see him as a winner? Because he got back up. And as long as we keep getting back up, we never truly lose.
I had someone on the show a few years ago. Well, about a couple of people. One woman was on cocaine, and another one was drinking alcohol. They doing fine now. The one who, I forgot how many years she was doing cocaine, but it's like 30 plus years sober. The other woman's doing fine. And the thing I've learned too, you have not walked in that person's shoes. You do not know what's going on in that person's mind, or what happened in the past or now. Right? I can't, you telling me this story, but I don't know how you feel. I can feel for you, but I don't know really how you feel. And that's one thing. People would say, oh, that person's drunk, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what's going on. And the main people sometimes who would judge other people, what about you in your life? What's what's
Yeah.
going behind your closet?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing today. I lay it all out there. We talked about in our pre-interview and before on the air. I'm like, there's no question off topic, because I know today, like, I have to tell the truth no matter what comes in front of me. And so that dynamic is just to be an open book and know that I don't want any skeletons in my closet, because for me, then I'll sit there and just spin on auto repeat, this dark, shameful cloud that I used to, and just used to lie a lot. And, I wouldn't tell the truth when even the truth suited me better than the lies.
Hmm.
And so for whoever's out there listening, that's it's hard. I get it. We all have what we feel, the emotions that are created, through that. And then that can, be a slippery slope with whatever, it can be with eating, it can be with, alcohol, drugs, nicotine,
True.
caffeine, all the dynamics as humans. Like, we'll find a way. You remove one thing that kind of takes control of us, and like, I mean, I've seen it all happen as I kind of keep pulling stuff off the shelf. Removed like drugs and alcohol, prescription drugs, nicotine, caffeine, then sugar. It's like the final nail in the coffin was like, like, well, I don't feel this, like, or I feel that. I'm gonna go get a tub of ice cream and sit and eat my sorrows, kind of thing. And so, it can look all different ways. It's just, as society, we have a different way of labeling things in such a way that, for me, like, I'm proud to call myself an alcoholic and an addict, because I know that that's my kryptonite. Like, think about Superman. Like, once he found out that, kryptonite was what, would stop him, like, okay, you stay away from it. Like, you stay away from the people that have it. You stay, just keep it out there, and fight the good fight against, the darkness from a different side.
Well, I love Superman. But anyway, about that, what's good to know that you're helping young kids. And also that you've been there. I mean, you've been there and you sort of know what they're going through. And that's a good thing right there, because some kids will say, or adults, you don't know, you never been there. How can you help me? But you're there, and you can help them.
It does allow you to, tell it from your perspective at
Mm-hmm.
their age. It might be 30,
Mm-hmm.
35 plus years ago at this point, but like, it's the
Still,
dynamic. It's, I remember when I was younger and what I was running from then, and, did that change over time and space? So absolutely.
I know I had a Dr. Fred Moss on some time ago. And he was talking about the truth. You have to face the truth before you can go on. You have to do it. You have to do it. So I'm actually this from addiction to recovery advocate. How does your personal journey define your purpose in serving the leadership today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, today, that's the thing. It's all about giving back. I think about Bravo Zulu House, which is the first all veteran sober house in the nation. It just happens to be here in Minnesota, about 2 hours south of Minneapolis, where I live. And, just continuing to know, our brothers and sisters in arms who suffer from the same thing. A lot of folks are like, well, you were an officer, like, this and that. It's like, no different. I'm human. And,
I was gonna say you're human, right?
and we're all children of God here. So the dynamic of this is, that all of us, to give back and to find your purpose again, to like know that there is a way out of the ditch, the rut, whatever it looks like that we're in, and, try to help. That's my biggest thing today, is just knowing that, we're kind of talking before, but, writing books and so forth. And I'm like, if one of my books like helps save a life, like, then it's served its purpose, kind of thing. That to me, I've struggled with suicide, and so forth. And, I know it's one of those that still continues to plague, so many veterans, not to mention just, people in general, right? Like, the dynamics of no longer wanting to live. And today it's hard for me to, say that, think that, whatever that looks like, because, like, I know there's a way out now, and, what that looks like. So to me, my purpose today is, it's all about giving back. I have a second chance at life today, and going to continue to put the work in, because I know when I stopped putting the work in, what happened. And, I gained 50 pounds. I ran from my family kind of thing. Now I run towards my family. So my, girls are back in my life, and, I want to be the example that I was before I had so many mistakes and mishaps, just a few years ago. And, that's the whole thing about it is, as human, as we are, those of us who get to live as long as we have, you got a few check marks in the old mistake column, and there's nothing. It's a cool thing about it, perfectly imperfect that we are. And so, for anybody out there that needs some help, I know Jocelyn will have some show notes or whatever. Reach out to me, and I'm here to support in the fight of this, because I know we all struggle at times.
That's true. Like I said before, no one is perfect. No one is perfect. You said earlier about leadership. Someone said to you, where you like official, more like, how can you have a problem, right? You were saying that, and I was thinking about that leaders, sometimes. Well, this was a little different story. We had this pastor on, and he was saying that sometimes people will look, if they say they have a problem, people or the congregation might look at them for being weak sometimes. This came from my pastor. You're human. Now they have a place where they can go to get help. It's like they suffering too. I mean, a lot of people in leadership suffering, and some people afraid to seek help because of what people might think about them. But you are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I was no different than that leader you're talking about.
Right.
Like, I just kept stacking my problems in my backpack kind of thing. Like, hey, I'll deal with that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. It gets a little heavy and you get worn out. And, if you do ask for help, sometimes you might be asking the wrong people. And, and when that happens, then what? What happens after, X, Y, and Z? You've like reached out to the people that are closest to you, that you figure have your best interest in, mind for you. And it's like, well, it sounds like you got some problems. Like, I don't want you to get any of that ick on me. And, then it, as I reflect on, where I was at, um, you get to see who the real people are supposed to be in your life, who's in your corner. And, today I have, like the Veterans Affairs, like fantastic, treatment here, and who I go see in Minnesota. I think about for me, the church perspective, and who I can go to and talk to there. And then I think about, yeah, for them, like, who do they go talk to though? Like, when even, somebody like myself, and it's true. I mean, they need to, have an outlet. And I think of that, like, that's the whole purpose for me today. In like some of the services that I provide, is the dynamics of, being that leader at one time that, knew I couldn't carry it anymore. And, it broke me. And so it's like, you guys, whoever out there's listening, like, you have to drop those rocks. You got to make smaller rocks out of those big rocks, because it's too heavy to carry around. It'll cripple you. And today it's that, I'm here to help. I'm here to be a sounding board. There's certainly mental health professionals and so forth that you should, I'll never discount that. I have my psychologist, my psychiatrist, my counselor, so on and so forth, my pastor. But then I also have coaches in other areas as well when it comes to mindset training and so on and so forth, just that I do, because, that's how you hone your craft, and you continue to get better and better in, helping others as well.
Mm. And it makes you stronger. It makes you strong. You can feel it. And other people can see it from you, right? They come to you and say, "Oh, wow, you're really doing great." So have you some of your friends who come to you and say, "Can you help me?" Who were afraid to come out, were afraid to say they have a problem, and they see how you're doing, and maybe let me talk to Ryan. Maybe he can help me.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's certainly less than, the ones that don't want to talk to you anymore because, the dynamics of I was the one in the circles that were like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm not an alcoholic or I don't have a problem because I mean, Ryan, he's the one with the real problems, kind of thing.
Right.
And I always made sure I had a Ryan, in the different groups that I hung in too, to, make sure that I'm not as bad as so-and-so, kind of thing. I
Right.
mean, he does this or that. And so today, certainly you have, those that, need help and, I'm certainly here for them. And sometimes, too, pointing them in the right direction, because like I'm not, the right person for them, especially if we have a relationship and so forth. But the cool thing is now I have like the toolkit of toolkits, with working with so many different people here in the Twin Cities that it's very easy to get people in the right groups or with the right, whomever, they should be working with when it comes to rebuilding or characterizing what they suffer from.
Okay, let's talk about your book. How did your born again faith lead to your transformation? You write about in what God only knows when the devil comes for you, a second chance at life. I hope I have that right.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first one. Released that one, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago now. But
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
so yeah, I love it because it's really well, it's twofold. For me, it's this subtitle, Second Chance at Life, because thinking about where I was at 2 years ago this time, separated, getting ready to start the divorce process. I was sober, only by a couple weeks. And, it's almost Christmas. And we had a
Mm-hmm.
big family trip planned with friends going to New York City, kind of doing like a Home Alone 2 kind of thing. And
Okay.
I was uninvited. And, it certainly, as I reflect today, yeah, it's good. It was divine protection, by the Lord, knowing that, um, that was not the right place for me to be, certainly, with everything else going on and, the journey that I was about to embark on. And so the first book does, take you through the divorce process, the pain, like, um, I had a lot of my side of the street that needed to be cleaned up, and so forth. But at the same time, you look at it and go, like we have two beautiful adult children that came from that relationship. And, we just weren't meant to be together any longer than we were. And, through that process, I also, lost my job while I was sober, downsizing in a Fortune 500 company, which led to, now, our protector, legendary leadership companies and our protector development. So when you talk about that divine encounter, um, without the divine encounter, you couldn't see the good in all of it. You'd just look at the loss. And so for me today, when I reflect on it, it's like, oh, I can only see the good in it because I see my children today that, one's a sophomore in college, like she goes to church on her own, she literally brings a notebook to church the times that she's invited me to visit. Um, it's just so beautiful, like last Christmas, um, when we did spend time together at like after Christmas, we didn't spend it on Christmas Day. That's different dynamics in a separated household and how certain things happen at
Mm-hmm.
times. But, I bought them Bibles because, I don't think that they had their own Bibles. I mean, I know we didn't buy them for them, as they were growing up and going to their first communions or, confirmations and so forth. It was kind of like, like getting like the badges, but not like putting the work in, throughout time because, we didn't go to church every week. I didn't, read from the Bible every day, so on and so forth until, basically a year and a half ago. So to see that to me is like the real second chance at all of this, and to know only walking in, his light, through my faith, hope, and love today creates this, whatever the girls are going to go through, like they're going to be strong enough because they have him in their life, where I didn't. I was born and raised Catholic, and I just looked at it. I was as he's a punishing God, and, not a loving God. And he's certainly not protecting me if like this is happening and that's happening and so forth. And then I married a Lutheran. So that was Catholic light, which in my mind just meant, good. We don't have to go to church. And, if you're not reading the Bible, then, hey, like, become like, I had a buddy say, "Are you a cheester?" This is like 2 years ago, but like, I was like, "What's a cheester?" It's like, well, you go to church at Christmas and Easter.
Oh, I never heard that before. I never heard that before. You have some people like that go during the holidays.
It's whatever, to me, like, that's fine. Like, but, if you're going to have, for me, it's all about spirituality, and your faith practices are you a kind, loving member of society? So like there's a 6-step method, for kindness. And it looks like this: you smile, you say please, you say thank you, you say excuse me, you say I'm sorry, and then you repeat that all day long. And the dynamic of that allows the world just become kinder as you transform either yourself or others around you. It just, you can see it, like it just, emulates across as soon as you smile at somebody. And so, yeah, like to that end, as I reflect on my path today, in the first book, God only knows, like, because like a lot of folks would be like, well, you were, an alcoholic and a drug addict and all these things. And it's like, yeah, but the problem is, like, you're comparing yourself to X, Y, or Z, and if you're not walking in his light, like, he's the only one that's going to know when the devil steps in and goes like, like, I'm going to take him as far as I can. And God's like, well, I put something in him already that, I'm not worried about it, because he's going to, find me. He's going to come looking for me finally, because I know the story. And, so that's the first book. The second book, The Icarus Effect, the highs and lows of our emotions, we all have feelings, kind of is more of a reflection of, telling the truth in everything we do. So like, we're all little boys, if you're obviously a male, and until you tell the truth in everything you do, you stay a boy. And so like, it took 45 years for me to become a man, even though, I served for 23 years in the Army and probably pounded my chest like a, King Kong and all that kind of stuff. And, but yeah, it took a long time to finally, start telling everybody that, I was, somebody they probably believed I wasn't, or maybe they knew I was, and, they were just excited to get away from that. And, the dynamics today is to realize, like, how black and stony your heart can become. And, but it's cool because he'll replace it, with a warm, fleshy, loving one. Once you put the work in and start to come out of that funk, that pickling, I guess, that I was in since, I enjoyed alcohol. But, it was all about really truly understanding your feelings. And I had suppressed mine for so many years and didn't know how to feel and didn't understand how hurtful my words were to others. And then just always having to react to everything that happened, good, bad, or indifferent in life, as opposed to just being able to sit and observe and assess it and just go, yeah, I can see your point of view. I can see your perspective. I get it. Do I agree with it? Maybe not, but I can certainly sit and listen and have an open conversation about it. That's before I would probably have a very opinionated, shut you down discussion because my perception was, clouded by so much.
Comparing your military career to your podcast is our healer, our protector. What is the biggest truth you want to teach? You now teach. The biggest truth you now teach.
No, I mean, from the podcast side of it, it's certainly, it's the hope. I have prayer hands on like the inside of my bicep, and it says
Mm-hmm.
faith, hope, and love around them. And it's that hope to show that like if you get a second chance, not everybody gets a second chance, unfortunately. To have that hope that it can be amazing. It's going to be amazing, but you got to get up every day and like put the work in. You got to get on the treadmill, go to the gym. You got to eat healthy. You got to, like even me, you put the bottles down or the pill box or whatever it is, like, and then you go on to nicotine, and then you go on to caffeine, and then you go on to sugar. Like, you got to put them all down, unfortunately, and live, a healthy life, because that's the whole point of it, to be around long enough in that second chance to start making a difference in your community, to give back. And so today, yeah, our healer, our protector, like we're all about giving back to the community, those that have served, for so long and put the work in, and knowing that like it's not in vain. And, for them to understand that if you do fall, you do have a few mistakes, on the runway to launch. And the Lord gives you a second chance. Make the absolute most of it. Find your purpose again, and learn to smile, create that kindness everywhere you go.
A pastor would say, as long as you're living, as long as you're breathing, you have a second chance. Because once that's it. It's over. So you still have that chance. No one knows how long we would be on this earth. No one knows. Because every time I go to a funeral, people would say, get your life straight. Well, I don't get my life straight. I don't get my life straight. Go to the next funeral. I don't get my life straight. I'm going to get... You don't know.
Right.
You don't know. We don't know. We're not God. Only God knows. But anyway, what's next for you? You will be writing more books. And I wanted to ask you this. How long have you had your podcast?
I think we launched in May of 25, so we're probably 35 episodes in. So, over 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. So how can people follow you and purchase your books?
Send them to the hub. It's ourprotectordevelopment.com. So OURprotectordevelopment.com is the great place. We got a 5-minute morning reset that's free for you. If, you want to get off on the right foot every morning, it just takes 5 minutes. And, but yeah, for courses and coaching and, social media wise, Ryan T. Reichert on any of the platforms, or my old Yahoo email, ArmyRT1978. It's kind of like a bumper sticker or a license plate. But those can find me on social there. And for the books, pretty much anywhere online that you would buy a book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, you can find them. You can just search Ryan T. Reichert, and you should see the 3 that are out there in distribution today. And yeah, we got a couple more that'll come out in 26. And just keep enjoying life. That's all we're doing. The next one, it's called Let's Get Spiritual, the 6-step method to transform your life. I think it'll probably be coming out in February. So we'll see. Don't know specifically when in February yet, but I'm thinking February. It's in what we would call post-production, which is getting all the pages to look a certain way and all that kind of stuff.
The important thing is February, sometime in February. So look out for that. Well, Ryan, I want to thank you so much for sharing your journey and your truth with our listeners today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so very much.
For our viewers at home watching, if you like what you see, subscribe to The Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on our show? Head over to our website, www.jmentertainment.info. On the homepage, click on About and follow directions to be a guest. If you have any questions about today's show or past or future shows, just click Contact on our website and submit a message. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care and keep watching.